Welcome back to Tune to Life. So glad you're back with us again. Listen to our dulcet tones and us talking about all sorts of different things. And today we're going to be looking at the idea of work and how that's changing really quickly. And in this technological age, what it look like in the next 10 to 15 years, probably even less than that. And
Definitely.
it's certainly moving at a rapid
Very
pace.
quick.
And most of us are so used to how things are now. You know, looking to, if you're in school or if you're in uni or some
Yeah.
training,
Yeah.
you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to leave, get a job, get something to live, or
Definitely.
staying at home,
Yeah.
pay your bills, get the things you like to do, and all those sorts of things. That will change. The basic process
Yeah.
is going to change. It's going to change over the next number of years. And with radical changes now, certainly with the introduction of AI and so on, that will change things. So we're going to sort of do a little bit of a deep dive into how that may affect us,
Yeah.
and what we're doing, and what sort of jobs will be affected. I think that's most.
Definitely.
But what sort of jobs will spring up as a result of that?
Mm.
We always talk about creation of new jobs. I think there will be a creation of new jobs, but I think those jobs will be less.
Yeah, I think so
They
too.
won't sort of serve everybody
Body.
that well, because some people are not, you know,
Capable.
don't have the disposition for those big
definitely.
roles. But we'll look at that. We'll talk about things like that as we go on. So where we are now is at this. We are at work because work allows us to trade our knowledge, skills, knowledge, expertise, whatever we have, for money. And that money allows us to pay our rent, pay our mortgage,
Definitely.
buy the things that we like to buy, survive and live and exist in this sort of consumerist world, this capitalist world we live in. That's what it essentially does. But it also gives us gives us a sense of purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, meaning.
And it helps us to, it helps other people to know where you are in the pecking order, in the societal pecking order.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a professional, if you're working class, if you're this, you're that, whatever it might be, it sort of gives that. And it allows you to buy those things to reflect your status or your preferred status in society. So, you know, a nice car or where you live,
that's right,
or how you dress, all these things.
Holidays, all that type of stuff.
All those sort of things. So it provides all these different things for most of us. And obviously varying depending on how you are, not necessarily because of just say to some people are not interested in that, I know, but generally speaking, status comes into it. And also it affects the individual in the social market space.
Of course it does.
You know, when you want looking for a partner, it affects that, isn't it? Because some, the guy, girls want to know, what are you doing? Do you have potential?
That's right.
Do you have something that's going to look, safeguard her in the future, a family or whatever it is? Are you, investable?
Yeah. How many boxes are ticked on there?
Exactly. So all these things, work provides all these different things as well.
Definitely.
So, this is where we're coming to now. If things change, and they are changing, if they change, things are changing
at the moment. Yeah.
And how that will evolve, no one really knows. We're going down a road that we've not been down before.
That's true, definitely.
So things are changing. How will it be at some point? And it will continue to change. So status change? The idea of status change?
I think that'd be interesting,
We know with your position in the marketplace will change.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this earlier about sort of universal basic income. Because if UIA comes in and there are less jobs around, the unemployment will be much higher.
That's right, yeah.
And therefore the people with the different skills base. But we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's worth getting into some of those things.
Yeah.
But where we are now, world of work is changing. And we're just going to touch upon sort of our educational system. That in itself does not and has never prepared you for work.
No, it hasn't.
Never does. Never has. You go to school, you learn. Yes, you've got maths and English and stuff like that and whatever. But it doesn't prepare you for the world of work. It doesn't make you financially literate.
But no, it
It doesn't help you
no.
to understand how to get a mortgage.
Mortgage, no.
Doesn't help you to budget any better
No.
in that space. Doesn't help you to understand how the world works.
No.
You can leave school and not have an inkling about how the world works.
And actually achieve academia wise very, very well. But
Yeah,
actually, as you
yeah.
said,
I mean, you can go to uni,
yeah.
and come out with a first class honors degree.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you know how the world works.
That's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
So, these places don't set you up for learning how things work. And things are changing. And I think for the future and for education, I don't think education or degrees will play the same role as it does now, or the same role it always has done. That's going to change. I think it's going to be more based on experience and skills and knowledge. Although, degrees do offer that.
Yeah.
Yes, but not in the same way.
Yeah, and I think they'll be more bespoke. I think in terms of what they'll specifically do. I think there'll be a whole marketplace where, as we understand it, those they'll be gone due to kind of AI automation.
Yeah. I mean, so things will change, and things are changing.
Yeah,
and I think we want to look at that because even in the world of work right now, where we are now, most people who are working, we understand, are not happy in their jobs.
Oh, seriously.
And we have to look at sort of all the different reasons to why, because if you go back 30 years ago, before we had emails and immediacy in terms of contact or responses, it was sending off a letter, it was making a telephone call. Yeah. So stresses were different then, but seemed to be manageable. You had more pressure rather than stress, which is slightly more healthier in that sense. Yeah, you see what I mean? But now, with emails and people expecting you to respond quicker, back then response in days.
Yeah.
Now it's a response in minutes. Or within the hour or something. So it's changed a lot, which means that our productivity have had to increase.
That's right.
And the work pressures and stresses along with that. And plus, I think we're more indebted, aren't we? We live more in debt now than we ever have done, which places own pressure on us.
Yeah.
And on top of that, cost of living crisis right now.
No.
So,
definitely.
And that seems to be around the world. So it's a different environment we're living in, and different space. And
I think also, we as a result of that, we see kind of governments trimming, trying to make savings. We've got,
austerity and so on. Yeah,
so the councils
then
try to trim their workforce. You've got people in the work environment that are having to kind of look over their shoulder in terms of their jobs.
Rising costs for organizations, individuals, businesses, small businesses, and so on. Everything's going up, and people are feeling the squeeze.
Right, definitely are.
People feeling the squeeze. So the system, is changing.
Yeah.
Will it change for better or worse? We don't know, but it's something.
Yeah.
It's something that is happening, whether we like it or not.
And the crazy thing, Andrew, is this actually, and it's mad actually. I was talking to some people, and so people are feeling the pressure under work, and they're feeling the demands of having to try to make, in terms of working an average day, as to speak. And the crazy thing is that they want out of that system.
Yeah.
Right? They want out of their system. It's almost like a noose around their neck.
Yeah.
And they want out of the system. But the crazy thing is this, is that what's happening now, with these workforces being trimmed, those same people now are now looking for that as their lifeline, because actually they can't get sacked. So they're now in a pool of competition against other colleagues to keep their jobs.
Yeah. It's a sad world, really, because you people are caught up in this cycle of madness, and every so often, companies, organizations, whether private or public, are reorganizing.
That's right. Yep.
And it's just an opportunity for them to cull the start workforce, I should say. That's what it is. Just to cull. They're right. Okay, we don't need that. We get rid of that. Get rid of that. Pretend to create new positions there, and that's it. And people, the response of that is that people feel even more under pressure.
Definitely. definitely.
And I don't think that's been a good thing or a healthy thing for organizations to be engaging in, because what I think has been the outcome of that
Okay.
is, one, they may seem to make their company more efficient, but two, they lose good
Oh,
staff.
yeah.
They will often find that there is no loyalty,
Loyalty. That's right. When you say that.
no loyalty
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
When it happens, that's gone out.
People,
Where people stay for 6, 7 years,
years.
10 years, 15 years, and you'd have, 3 or 4 staff, meaning the
Longest,
longest, and
yeah.
they know everything, and they keep the ship floating
Yeah, that corporate
and
memory you
keep
talked
things
about
going. Corporate
before.
memory,
Yeah,
keep that all there.
yeah.
Those people are few and far between
Now,
now,
definitely,
because
definitely.
CVs now, 2
2
years, 3
years.
years, 2 years, 3
Yeah.
years. That's it. Moving,
Moving
moving,
on.
keeping it
That's
moving
right.
all the time.
Yeah.
So how does a business survive that?
But and it's funny you say that, Andrew, because actually I was looking at some research by Gallup. They did some global research, and they were talking about in terms of how happy people are, or kind of
Yeah.
unhappy. And they did some research in 2017, 155 countries. Now the crazy findings was this: 15% of people in
Mm,
companies,
yeah.
okay, were driven, motivated, and innovated, and a creative force. 15%,
That's
right?
quite a reasonable number.
Okay, right. Well, check
Yeah.
this out. Check this out.
Yeah.
18% were actively disengaged, resulted in sabotage at work.
Okay.
Unhappy because they, resentful because their own needs weren't being met, right? And then you've got 67% that were psychologically unattached to work. So we're talking about people that were there just putting in the time,
Yeah,
but not
just
really
getting their
coming.
salary.
Just yeah,
Just getting their
just
salary.
clocking in and getting it out
Well,
again. You know what I mean?
well, that just really reinforces what we're
We
saying.
say no, no,
What
no,
is
yeah,
actually
that's it.
happening?
But
Exactly.
now the funny thing is this: in Western Europe, that even goes down even more. So apparently, 10% of employees are engaged in work. Vast majority, 71%, are disengaged in terms of work. And
Yeah,
I
how
mean,
they feel about
yeah, how
work
they
and
feel
so on.
about work and
Yeah, I
stuff.
mean,
So
exactly. I'm sure those numbers are not going to be higher in
in
the Western world, because people do feel the pressure. People aren't happy, and companies now really are less interested
they are in
in the
people.
happiness
Yes, they are
of their staff. They just want the
numbers.
numbers,
That's it.
because they're competing with
Other
other
yeah.
organizations in the market space, and they don't want to go down. But
No,
they go down, there's reorganization,
organizations.
and what that means, heads roll.
Well, that's right.
Heads
Yeah,
roll.
yeah.
So everybody's fearful of that, and that's not the best situation to be in. But it is
What
what
it
it is
is. Yeah,
in that respect.
yeah,
But overall,
yeah.
moving on from there, overall, it just means that things are changing. People's expectations of the workplace are changing.
Changing.
There's not much loyalty there anymore. I mean, there are probably 1 or 2 great companies to work
Work for,
for
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
are invested in their work
Workforce,
staff,
yeah.
and those people never leave.
That's right.
Never leave. They just stay. They know they're on a good thing. They know they're on a good thing. But I think the world of work is going to change. I want to sort of like run into that,
That,
what
yeah.
that looks like,
Okay.
and how that world of work is changing. I think that for the future, we have remote working now, and I
Okay.
think we have to look at it since like post
COVID.
COVID,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because COVID was like a little bit of a reset,
It was, wasn't it?
and it sort of changed direction
Yeah.
of where we're heading to some extent, or accelerated it to some direction.
Yeah.
You know,
It kind of felt strange for me because I felt like there was there was a breaks, and it was almost like, oh, this feels really different, and
yeah,
it,
because
it
remember before then,
yeah, yeah.
let's get into rather
Okay,
than
yeah,
the
yeah,
feeling.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what happened is that people, in my understanding, were feeling so stressed.
Yes.
Everything was moving
Yes,
so
yes,
quickly,
that's right. Hamster
quicker and
wheel.
quicker and quicker. Yeah, yeah, like a hamster's wheel. Then when COVID hit,
Okay.
there was this break, this
Yeah, love.
halt.
Yes.
And people, I think, at that point began to look at their lives, reflect, see what's important,
Yeah.
spend time at home. For some people, weren't great because they were spending time with their partners. They realized, I don't like this person at all, and it made them think about
Really,
re re re
to reevaluate their lives.
reevaluate their
Yeah,
lives.
yeah,
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 reevaluate what their lives and what they were
yeah,
doing. So that was different.
yeah.
But in terms of work, it made people look at what they were doing
Doing this right, yeah.
and how they wanted to continue on from now. So that work-life balance, how people
Yeah.
were working from home, realizing that they can go into the kitchen and make themselves a little drink, make
Yeah.
themselves a little something to eat, do their work, maybe sort of like just take a delivery from
Oh, for
Amazon,
Amazon, yeah.
or and they'll think this is really
Really
good.
good, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
go online, order something, and still get the work
Good
done.
done, that's
So
right.
what happened as well, which was very interesting,
Yeah.
was that when they evaluated this, they were concerned that productivity
We would
was going to go
down,
down.
that's right.
And organizers were like, oh no, we need to do something about this. We need to do
Yeah.
something about this. You know, productivity is going to go down. And when they actually checked, productivity actually went up. They're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is interesting. And when people were asked, they said because they feel much more settled, they're better. And some people were escaping sort of bullies,
Yeah, at
work,
work.
management bullying,
It's
and
just, yeah.
so they were feeling happier.
Happier, you know,
Or sometimes people were working with people they didn't feel happy working with, but on their own they felt much
Right.
better. But then there was the other side of the coin that some people actually missed working with people.
that's what,
They
yeah.
felt more isolated at home and so
yeah.
on. So you had a mixed bag of different
yeah.
situations. But overall, productivity was much better. Then now we've got a situation where companies saying, "Oh, go back
Back to
in.
work,
We're
I
losing
know.
this and that," and I don't really get that because it doesn't make sense and it's short-sighted. Because in the not too distant future, you know what's going to happen? We're going to go back.
I know. It's
That's
crazy,
just
isn't
a
it?
fact.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's just a fact. We're going to go back to either hybrid working
or working at
as
home.
a norm.
Yeah.
My research found hybrid working as a norm. Remote working won't be seen as a perk. It will be the standard.
Wow.
So as an employee, you're working at home.
Wow.
That's it. And it makes sense because a lot of organizations now working are thinking, well, look what's happening. Business premises are just too expensive.
Yeah.
Too expensive. Yeah. And all the associated costs with having premises there, all gone. So if you could have somewhere smaller or have a hub that people just come in and out from time to time.
Yeah.
One little place that you have your staff coming in, but it made people maybe work at home. So that's going to be very, very different for the future. I think that's going to be, and also flexible hours. So rather than saying working from 9 to 5, so for example, that's going to be great for working mothers.
Yeah.
Working mothers. Rather than you've got to be in it, this is the core hours, whatever it is, moms will be able to say, well, okay, fine. In terms of reducing their childcare costs or families, that'd be great. Because now people are paying up to like £1,200.
It's a ridiculous amount of money.
£200 per child. That's
Bonkers.
bonkers. So if there is flexible working in the future and so on, that's going to cut that down because they may not have to put a child into childcare. They may just get a childminder to do a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, and reduce their costs drastically. So that would be a fantastic thing. And I think some people are already experiencing that because of having this hybrid system or remote working. They're already doing that. They're already getting the benefits. But I think those benefits should be far more spread out, and a lot more people should have access to those sorts of benefits. But also, again, it'd be great for congestion on the roads because if you're working from home, you don't need to be in your car going to work.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Or taking a bus, so you're saving money there again.
That's right,
so that I think that's a good thing. But I think again, in the whole process of this, I think like Transport for London didn't really like the idea because you weren't using the bus. I think during COVID they lost a lot of money.
Yeah, and in other industries too, isn't there?
Yeah, the associated industries knock-on effect from that. So I think that's something.
That's why they're kind of
that's why they said get back into work again. Yeah, because it had a knock-on effect on all sorts. So, but I think as well in terms of AI coming into this, is that there needs to be more thought about how they do this. And I don't know whether big organizations are really thinking about it or whether they're just thinking about the profits that they can make. Whether there's going to be ethical use of the data.
They need to really be doing that because I think that this is something that, according to the research, and I think they've done some research in various other countries, and then I'm thinking UK too, and I think they were saying that the poverty levels did actually decline as a result of universal basic income, which is
We're not talking
promising.
about that. We're
Oh,
just
sorry.
saying. We're just saying about that in terms of what AI coming
Oh,
in.
sorry. Apologies.
You were,
Sorry, I
you
went
were
somewhere
just
else. Sorry.
like, yeah,
Apologies.
yeah, it's all right.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. If
Sorry.
you didn't answer, we're talking about there.
Sorry.
No, we're just talking about
Yeah.
sort of the data
Sorry.
relating to the use of AI,
AI.
whether that's going to affect
Yeah.
jobs significantly.
Significantly.
We know it will do,
Okay.
but if it has a huge impact really, really quickly, then there's going to be a real big problem. But I think that in terms of how whether AI will be used to co-pilot is what I think is the big talk now.
Okay. Yeah.
Helping people at work, helping people to do stuff that will safeguard a lot of jobs to a degree. There'll be a cutoff for some roles, won't exist anymore. But I think the type of job that will exist will change with having AI there. So, for example, AI will, if AI is used as a co-worker,
Okay.
well, I found that it can help draft documents, emails, codes, reports, and it's already doing that.
Now, yeah.
Analyze data instantly, so it can put data in, it can run alongside it and analyze it rather than you having to look at a chart and work out what it is. It can analyze data for you and then print out a report. That individual will then be able to report back to the team or back to the senior or whatever it is to look at what they shouldn't be doing.
And I would have thought actually in terms of that, the speed of it, because obviously I just look at
exactly.
just the speed
Exactly.
very,
So provide
quick.
insights and recommendations as well, which has been interesting. And also I think you'll be able to learn that person's personal work style or team. So imagine if AI is integrated, it will help that manager or the leader of that organization understand how their business is operating and the work style of that organization and look at how it can enhance or help or support for a happier working environment.
I think
which will be useful.
Yeah, I think I saw that with Curry's. Actually, Curry's was doing that, implementing that same strategy actually on something I read.
And I think again, looking at the research I've been looking at, is that where this is going to be a problem, and this is going to be happening a lot. There are lots of organizations that moved to contractual work and moved away from permanent jobs. Give example. I remember there was a time where, for example, British Airways moved away from offering lots of permanent long-term contracts into shorter contractual work, 2 years or 5-year contracts. And I think a lot of organizations move to that. But I think that's going to be the future. So people will be employed. So the employment law will change
altogether.
I think, I think so.
You say short term, what do you mean? Kind of.
Well, I think there'll be project-based work.
Okay, right.
So there'll be a project to do something for a year, 2 years, and employ a person to do that, because AI will cover the rest.
Just a bit. Wow.
Yeah, and they'll come in to do that as a human.
Okay.
And work for that period of time, and then that'll be it. So I think there'll be short-term project work. There'll be talent market spaces where people with certain skill sets will offer their skills in a marketplace, and you'll go then and think, I need a person for this, I need a person for that, and they'll do that role for a period of time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that it won't just be like London or UK. I think it's going to be a global market space. Yeah, because you won't need, think about it, if you're not, and this is why younger people now need to understand this. And I'm sure some do, but a lot don't. A lot don't understand. Is that, and I've said this to a lot of people, younger people who are going to leave school, going to uni, that it's not going to be a situation where you fill out an application and it's just you going for that job or people in the UK. In the future, it's going to be a global thing. If it's going to be a global thing.
I suppose it's going to be like a shop window, but a global shop window where
where people can apply from all over the world to do that role. There could be somebody from India, from Pakistan, from the Caribbean, from America, from Southeast Asia, from Australia. Say, I can speak fluent English, I can do this, and I can do that for you. And
and then obviously it's all online.
All
So you
online.
don't have to actually go anywhere.
Yeah,
You
you
just
don't have
did-
to,
yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
So that'll be how the world
interesting.
works. So somebody from here, London, UK,
Okay.
will be able to do a job in Australia
Yeah.
or a job in Southeast Asia, or a job there. So it's going to change. The workspace, I believe, will change dramatically. Dramatically.
And actually, I was just thinking, imagine, I mean, obviously, Australia's the other side of the world, different time zones. So you actually, imagine you're saying, well, I'm working nights, but I'm working for a company in Australia.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? That kind of.
And the other thing is
Yeah.
this, is that the idea of where you would have just one job, your one main job. I work 35 hours a week, and this is my role, this is my
Yeah.
my job label, and I'm going to be there. That won't be the case anymore. I think for the future, you'll have multiple jobs because you'll have 3 or 4 projects going on in one go.
Wow.
To make a living. You know, one will be 3 months, one will be a 6-month
months,
one, one
yeah.
will be a 2-month one or a month thing. You will looking for different projects, working on multiple different things, and building the experience to do that.
So I would have thought then that the job space in terms of competition, I think it'd be extremely high, wouldn't
Of course it will be.
Really high.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're going to have to be on your game.
Yeah. Wow.
On your game. And so again, I think that it'll be different here. It'll be different here because I think
Okay, go
that,
on.
you know, there's a certain degree of I can say comfort to some extent
Okay.
compared to other countries where things are harder
Wow.
and people are a little bit hungrier. Yeah. So I think people have to definitely reevaluate their position and how they do what they do.
So you think that the works, so in terms of people, say, I'm not saying applying, but people even companies going for those positions or looking for employees for those positions to fill those spots. If I was a company, I'm going to go for someone that's really hungry, someone that's really
Yeah,
that wants,
exactly.
you know.
There's that, but also there's a situation. You know, at the moment there are things that will affect who is taken on by
Oh, okay, yeah,
what or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Because let's say just using the UK,
Okay, yeah.
right? There is a bit of an issue if communication is a huge part of what you do.
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
somebody's they're using English as not as a first language,
okay, yeah.
and there are very sensitive bits of information that needs to be
yeah.
communicated in a sophisticated way.
Right.
Somebody may not have that level of English to be able to do that.
Okay, yeah.
So therefore, it
I get that. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
However, and whatever language, it could be another language too. It could be from another country, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But with the advent of AI, being able to do that,
all that stuff, yeah, course change. Wow.
It'll be just about thinking.
So you can just go. So you can go anywhere. Nothing. Everything's.
Anywhere,
Nothing's off limits.
Exactly.
Wow.
So I think that's going to be how it is. I think people will develop portfolios of what they do. So let's say somebody law in something. Let's say even law.
Yeah.
And they graduated here. They're a lawyer here, and I think that they may in the future, not now, but in the future, they may take on legal aspects in other countries because AI will be able to decipher what that law is in that country and how it works, and they'll be able to apply that potentially.
Education just takes a whole new vehicle, doesn't it?
It could well be. I'm not saying will do.
Yeah.
It could well be. You can see how barriers may be broken. Because of that. So, and again, new job categories is going to appear because of that. So I've got here, you've got things like an AI workflow designer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my head around that.
Yeah. And, so it's hard. But then again, I'm going to go into that in a second.
Yeah.
AI workflow designer. We've got virtual world architect, metaverse 3D experience designer. So that's going to come to the fold. You've got a data ethicist and AI auditors. Now, data ethicist is a person who will look at how data is used ethically
to make
sure it's applied the right way and it doesn't isn't disingenuous to
Punished.
any
Yeah,
particular
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
group or body of people, and AI auditors, and is AI the right thing to be using?
Using.
Is it used appropriately? Da, 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 da.
Wow.
So that those roles will come into
And you know
to
what? Those type of roles, you would say, well, actually, you'd bet your top dollar that actually there's some kind of permanency with those type of roles because
yeah,
of
to a degree,
given the
yeah,
nature
yeah,
of
yeah,
what it
and they'll
is.
have to be human, done
Done.
by another
Yeah.
human. You see, and then you have human AI interaction specialists, so a
Oh,
person who
okay.
works out how a human integrates
Interact.
or works with. Yeah,
Wow.
you've got robotics maintenance and coordinators, so those people to do hardware in fixing them and so on, and the robots and so on. You've got digital wellness and consultants. So
Oh my gosh.
remember, at the moment, look at how we can become addicted to our phones
Phones.
and addicted to
Yeah.
digital things and games, whatever it is. So there are going to be digital wellness consultants
Consultants.
who will work about how you disengage, how you work with them, how you keep healthy in that environment.
Oh,
Space.
there's
So
quite a bit of space there. That, you know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
for
And I
new
suppose,
jobs,
and
new
I suppose the
roles.
creation and the innovation.
Yeah,
That's the bit that
yeah,
kind
and
of
it's not
all.
going to be good for everybody, but you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
see
yeah.
how some people can
Could you
fill that space.
definitely, definitely.
You know, and I put his skills are going to be important. Degrees won't be so much. So problem solving, creativity, digital
Yeah,
literacy,
yeah.
interpersonal communication, and adaptability is going to be key
Key.
factors for the future. So I see a lot of people who are in school
Schools.
now think about these things,
You,
and some aren't.
you know what the
Some
crazy thing
aren't.
the crazy thing is that, and I know we spoke a little bit about the education
Mm,
system kind of being a bit old and dinosaur before its time or at its time now,
mm.
but really in essence you would think to yourself that actually these kind of hubs within schools are the things that they need to be nurturing for the future because this is where it's all going.
Like we said earlier, schools have never really been about preparing you for
Yes,
the world of work,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's a fact.
yeah,
So going back to this now,
yeah.
which we'll touch on again later, more automation in physical jobs. So warehouses, we know already. Look
Yeah,
at Amazon
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
They're actually laying off 10,000
Oh
people.
yeah, just a bit more than that actually. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
look at automation,
yeah.
and that will have a domino effect on
Effect.
other warehouses because they'll want to become competitive in that market
Space. Yeah.
environment. Construction, we know that that's becoming heavily roboticized.
You know, I mean, I was working with a young person just a little while back actually, and I was saying to him, and he had aspirations in terms of being a bricklayer, and that's what he said I wanted to do. I said, look, you need to be thinking about what you want to do in terms of going forward, because at the moment they've got machines that are already doing that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So you can think that actually, and laying obviously more bricks than human beings, and as a result, you're probably going to have like one person facilitating a machine that
'cause I think a human being can lay up, a really skilled one can lay up to 200 bricks a day, isn't it? 300 bricks a day.
yeah, I think it's a bit more than that actually.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's a bit more than that. But I know the machines like
Could do like 1,000.
yeah,
some
yeah,
of them with
yeah. It was
1,000.
crazy.
And as they get
Yeah,
faster,
And yes, but that's
you
it.
know,
Yeah,
they're 3 times, 4 times as many. Yeah.
yeah.
And then there are other things that they can
Plastering,
do. Plastering. Yeah, I've seen
It's,
some. Yeah, even now. So I can imagine for the future, they'll become more sophisticated and be able to plaster a wall in no time.
But and the crazy thing is, it's funny because I was talking to some guys the other day, younger guys. I say young guys, about 28, 29. You know, in the workspace working. One of them are doing like he does a kind of more like builders merchant type
Yeah.
thing. And was having a conversation. And I said, you know what, guys? So in terms of what you do, think about how that could be automated. And he was like, and he was trying to buffer it, like, oh well, you know, I speak a different language, so I can do something very different to that. But they thought, and he recounted, and he was like, I'm thinking, this is AI. AI can do it multiple languages, and he quickly saw how quickly he became redundant. It's mad.
Yeah. And I think some people to think about how they're going to reinvent themselves for the future. For
Yeah.
younger people, really.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think older people is, they're spent. But yeah, I think so, yeah. But I think for younger people, you need to think about if someone's in, I think for younger people who are, say, 11, going into secondary school, 12, 13, whatever it is, I think they'll come into their own in it. But I think people in their 20s really need to think about how they're going to reinvent themselves. We need to be on it big time.
Definitely.
Big time.
I don't think time's on their side.
Yeah. You've got agriculture and manufacturing as well. And transport is going to change dramatically. because I think if you look at transport,
Yeah.
there was some talk about driverless taxis coming next year. Now that's gone quiet. I don't know what's going on
Talking
there,
about that, yeah.
whether they're reevaluating it. But the black cabs were like, what?
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, so doing that right now in the middle of a cost of living crisis, I think is a bit thoughtless. Personally, it's like the worst time to do it. I think if they shouldn't really be doing it now. I think it should be something that should happen in the future if they're going to do phased in, as opposed to doing it now.
But who makes these decisions? That's what I want to know. Who makes these decisions?
There's going to be some political.
You know what I mean? Because I think to myself, come on, you have to think about it. It's not rocket science to understand where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
And to take consideration of people's livelihoods and what they need to do.
There's a degree of people not really caring, isn't it? There's a people not really caring about that. So, yeah. So again, there are lots of different things. So the workplace will be I think the future of workplace will be highly personalized. Personalized training programs because of AI, work assignments matched to strengths, mental health support integrated into work systems. I think that will have to be a key part of it because as you become more digitized, you have to be concerned about how that's affect your mental health. 100%. So that's
start talking like computers.
Yeah. So smart environments adjust lighting, temperature, sound, and focus, things like that. So those are going to become some of the main features. Because remember, look at what gaming done to people becoming addicted to gaming, addicted to social media, addicted to this, addicted to that. So there's a certain addiction problem that's going to potentially come about as a result of that, and also the effects of AI, robots co-piloting, making you feel less capable, less important, and so on. So there are all these effects
on human psyche and stuff like that.
Yeah. So there'll be a sense of what is going to be classed as meaningful work. I think, purpose, passion, community impact, work-life balance. Those things will take a huge focus. I think for the future and how people want to move on, how they want to exist.
It's funny you say that because we've got a situation now where young people they're very much in that camp now, aren't they? They're kind of very much revolting against, not say revolting against work, but kind of very much like, look, this needs to be more meaningful. I don't feel like we've got any purpose or meaning in terms of what we're working towards because actually we're not able to get a house, we're not able to do the things that we want to do.
Well, younger people can't do these things. And I think that we'll get into some of those things. I think we can get into those now because I want to look at other things and how AI will transform what we do in the next 10 years.
Okay.
But I think, again, some of these issues will lay off a lot of people because they don't have the capacity to be able to do these other things that will be available. So what will happen to those people who are highly skilled in their own right for something else, but will not serve a purpose for the new world that's going to evolve? And that's the idea that governments have been looking at to the universal basic income, UBI. So they were talking about that and talking about what they're going to do and so on. But for the future, though, you can see that people, in terms of, and everything will be digitized. So there'll be no money. Because you'll be tracked in everything you do, etc., etc., etc. We talked about this beforehand. With that, it will be a different way of living and communicating with the environment and communicating with each other. And I personally don't think that's going to be a great thing. It'd be great for people who are actively participating in that new world of work, who can exist and live. They will be sort of okay. But I think for a lot of people, I think the vast majority of people won't be okay. And that will lead to a whole new position. And I think that, from my understanding, what I predict for the future, I think there's going to be a two-tiered system, a system that's going to run parallel with the system exists. So the big system will be a digitized world where people communicate and do things with the help of AI, blah, blah, blah. That's the future.
Okay.
Running alongside that, I think there's going to be a whole different world. There's going to be a mutation of the world, what we understand now. that are alongside that world.
Okay, right, okay.
And I think it's good. That world is going to be a world where there's going to be a different form of money, maybe a black market cash.
Okay.
Trades will still exist.
This
People still do manual stuff.
stuff.
Those things will still exist,
exist.
and those things will be traded regularly as a system, because people will find a way around it.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be a lot of people who are not going to be happy just sitting there doing nothing, being potentially controlled by a system that they didn't vote for or want. Yeah. And they will say, well, look, if I'm at home getting universal basic income,
yeah.
which is digitized money, which is not money at all, but it's just a voucher
yeah.
system, where you're told you can't do this, you're told you can't buy that, you've had too much sugar this week, you've had this, you've had that, you can't travel there, you can't do this, you can't do that. People won't be happy with that.
Yeah.
And they will seek to move and live and exist outside of that. So another world will evolve from that, where people will be able to do the things they want. And that's what I think will happen.
So you see they run alongside each other. Would they be in different places, as to speak?
No, I think think about it like this. This is my idea. This is my imagination.
Okay, yeah.
You know, somebody who doesn't fit into the regular system will be at home, and there'll be another person. Another person says, "Oh, Jack, my, I don't know, sink's playing up." Now, Jack used to be a plumber.
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, okay, I'll fix it out." And then in the process, there's some black market money.
Okay, right.
So he pays him that money. Now, you might think, well, what will he do with that money? That money, he'll say, oh, you know what? I want to buy some cakes or this or that. Now, let's pretend Jennifer, who lives down the road, makes cakes, makes this, makes that, does this, does that. She says, well, I'll sell you themselves. He gives her that money. She gives him the goods.
Okay.
And that money gets passed around, and that's how it starts. Until people start making things. Then people start making things. Yeah, they start making this, making that, and so you cannot bottle human ingenuity and the human spirit and just case it somewhere and say, nah, you can't do it.
You see
Something
in jails all
else
the
will
time.
evolve.
You see in jails all the time.
Sorry? Yeah. So people will do stuff. People will move beyond that. That's what I think.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't think this digitized world will be as successful as they think it will be. That's just my interpretation of it, because it dehumanizes people. Thinking that, you know, you won't earn anything, you won't own anything, and you'll be happy. No, you won't. You won't. People, how can you have a body of people who are rich, who own, who acquire, and then you have another people who are not rich, who can't own, can't acquire? People like to have things. Like, oh, that's my phone. That's my glasses. That's it. People.
And also, what about the
acquisition of things? The process of acquiring something gives a sense of purpose or worth or this or that. You can't say you don't have it and you just be cool. It's not going to happen.
And also, you know, for example, traveling and experiencing things and kind of, you know.
But that's different. That's different. But in terms of acquiring having this or having that, some people just want to have things. It's part of human nature. Part of human nature. So I think that is going to be something that I think they're not going to be able to control in the way in which they think they'll be able to control. So I think a whole new world will come up. That's my sort of imagination. That's my imagination of it. But I just talk about sort of like, you know, going back to sort of, will the work environment will transform in the next 10, 15 years. And I think that, can imagine, AI will automatically schedule your tasks, what needs to be done, when and how it should be. It will show you what you can do to improve the way you work in real time. Manage your meetings. It will give a negotiation plan if you have to negotiate with somebody, how you should negotiate and when to do that. create research. So effectively, in terms of what you do, in terms of your critical thinking skills, your ability to analyze,
That's what I'm
it will
concerned
take
about.
that away.
Away
You'll
from you,
you just
yeah.
be maneuvering in neutral all the
Neutral
time.
I know, that's just mad.
You know, because So, for example, look at this. As I said, in the future, in terms of what we regard as our principal professions, lawyers, doctors, financial advisors, engineers, scientists, whatever. So, an AI lawyer, we have to prepare legal briefs. So, we have people who would be doing that.
Expertise has just gone out the window.
Yeah.
It's gone.
AI doctors will draft diagnosis and treatment plans. Yeah. AI financial advisors will be able to optimize portfolios.
So
When the best time to buy. So, for example, you're a rich individual.
yeah,
So normally what you'll do, you'll say to a financial advisor, I've got £500,000 or £1 million to invest in stocks, shares, whatever,
Yeah.
commodities, whatever. Where should I
yeah,
put it?
yeah.
He'll sit there and work out what you should do, whatever it is. Now, AI, we have to analyze the markets, bang, 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 put it there. That's it. And move it around and then say, this is how it's doing for you.
Yeah.
When to sell one.
Wow.
Yeah. He won't need to do that anymore. Trading.
Yeah.
Trading.
Yeah.
That'll be done. You could make money on that
That-
without having to do that. So engineers will generate production-ready code. Yeah. So everything. So humans become decision makers and ethical overseers, not the source of all expertise. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Humans become decision makers and ethical overseers. So they oversee what the AI is doing,
yeah, but
and then provide you advice in terms of what's going on, but not the experts. The expertise, human expertise will start to decline. Yeah, think about it for a second. Human expertise will start to decline. So that's a worry. All expertise will be held in with AI. All the traditional things that we do. And this is why I think a different market will break out.
break out as a result of that.
That's what I think. You can't just kill the human spirit. The need to know, the need to be able to wield your knowledge, your skills, your expertise, to know that you have knowledge. And I think that's going to be a problem. So yeah, I think it's going to be, I think that jobs that will rise in the future, but you need to keep your eye out for, is mental health roles. They'll be on increase. At the moment, it's viewed upon, but I think they're going to be sorely needed. Coaching, mentorship, and tutoring.
Interesting.
Yeah, a human element. Because although it's going to be there in AI, but again, the human touch, human understanding, the human empathy.
So with that, do you think, will that mean that those services, when given the way, there will be like an increase because there'll be demand for those things? Or do you
Potentially,
think,
yeah. I think people that are doing them now will maneuver themselves, and we're in that same field. It will mean that we maneuver ourselves in a way to offer those services to as the world changes.
And it's funny reading something, because that feeds into a little bit in terms of thinking about some of the people that will be casualties to this AI. And what I was thinking about, say, for example, you've got women kind of struggled in terms of the fact that, they have, say some of them domesticated duties, or, the kind of work that they may well do, and how they can be casualties in terms of part-time flexible roles, all that type of stuff. But
that will change, though. That will change. We mentioned that already. In that world, that will change. You won't have that problem anymore, because remote working will be a fact. It'll be something that is not considered like a perk.
Okay.
It will be something that's just going to be
standard.
So families, and in that sense, it won't. Those things we mentioned won't be an issue. Won't be the same type of issue anymore. Those things, I think, will change dramatically. But again, I think in terms of hospitality, that's going to change with AI. Yeah, can you imagine that? It's going to rise in terms of what's going on there. So creative arts, community and social work, that's going to change dramatically as well with AI coming in. but that's going to increase,
Increase.
not decrease. Yeah.
And you can
And
imagine
in
all the
leadership and negotiation roles.
yeah, and you imagine all the kind of, you know, some of these roles are very administrative based. So you imagine the AI being able to actually help those roles. So therefore, people are able
No,
to
yeah,
kind of
yeah. So the thing, look at social work,
yeah,
right? Social work, you know, originally 30 odd years ago, maybe a bit longer, more of a social worker's time was spent with the
client.
clients
That's
and
right.
working one to one and having a more generic caseload and doing things.
With the client.
Now, social workers are more or less glorified
Yeah.
administrators.
That's right. That's
They
what
spend
they are.
more time head stuck in paperwork
That's right.
than they actually do seeing the
Client.
clients.
That's right.
And that's not a fault of their own; it's a fault of the system.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And most, you know, most people complain, "Oh, well, the social workers coming." Honestly, I mean, how can any social care worker just end up seeing a client once a month, 12 times in the year?
I know.
That's ridiculous.
And say that they know the client too. Actually,
Yeah,
I know it's
you
crazy.
know, just for the hour.
I know.
And if they want to see more than that, they have to justify it. So if you had a system where the administrative elements of it was taken over by AI or whatever it is, or doing that, then it would free them up to spend much more time.
And actually, then you
Yeah.
probably did them. There may well be more
And
intervention.
reduce their caseload.
Yeah.
So they can actually spend quality time and do the work they're supposed to be doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which they're taught to do.
Yeah.
They're skilled to do. So that's another story. But what the other thing I was looking at, which is quite interesting, is what companies will use AI to cut workforce size. Because there is going to be a very seductive, you know, position they're going to companies are going to find themselves in looking to reduce their workforce, increase profits. So tech firms are going to be the ones that reduce programmers, automated quality testing, AI-driven customer support, customer services. Gone. See that? Fewer product managers. Yeah. You can see, again, banking, risk analysis, accounting, compliance monitoring, customer support, trading, banking, all those roles gone. Retail and e-commerce, warehousing, robots, logistics and delivery, autonomous systems, right? Customer service, AI chat and voice. Yeah. Inventory management, AI all day long. Yeah. Transportation and logistics, freight trucking, ports and warehousing, inventory routing, dispatch systems, delivery robotics. Driverless fleets could cut millions of transportation jobs globally. Yeah. Manufacturing. It just goes on. It goes on and on and on and on. Media and marketing. Write ad copy, generate commercials and videos, produce images, designs, and voices, analyze audience data. Yeah. Business processing, customer support agents, data entry workers, support techs, scheduling, triaging roles. It just goes on. In terms of what can happen and how the world is going to change, all these roles I've mentioned and more, they're going to be severely affected by AI and robots. Severely. People in those roles need to think. If you are 25 and doing those roles, you need to be thinking about what you're doing. Cannot be sitting there just thinking, well, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Some people say they want to go into media or this or that, whatever. Thinking, are you mad? That's going. There is no long-term future in that.
And you know the problem is, Andrew, is that actually, say it takes you 2-3 years to study. By the time you look around, you come out, you're qualified, 2-3 years, technology's gone on past you. You know what I'm trying to say? So you've got nothing. You're like, hold on a second, I've invested so much money in this qualification. I'm now in debt.
Yeah, and I mean, younger people going into university now need to think about what degree they're going to do.
That's definitely.
Are they better to look something skills focused on the relating to an industry? And I think the pressure's on a lot of younger people, sadly, because they need to think about where they're going and what they're doing, because there aren't going to be as many roles available in the future. And so it's going to be literally typecast. So they may not like the roles that's available, but they're just going to have to do it if they want to have a job. Or be innovative, think about something that the market space
Yeah,
will need.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you sort out a business or do something that's going to solve a problem?
And think about it for a second. We have 360,000, students, people that are leaving school each year coming into the marketplace, all going to university or going to college for a purpose to find a job.
Yeah.
And that space is shrinking because obviously the fact that we've got automation and AI.
Yeah, exactly. So, there are a lot of things to consider, and I think the workplace is going to be hugely different, hugely different for people who are sort of, I would say, probably about 50. I don't really have to worry about it because they're going to be out of in another 10 years' time, they're going to be 60. So,
Although actually,
there's no retirement age.
well,
So
is it 68? I think it's 68. Is it not going up to 68?
Yeah, but it's going to be a different world.
Well,
isn't it?
then that's true.
I mean,
That's a good point,
can
actually.
you really afford to retire? Is my point. No, none of you have to afford to retire. So again, if you're 50 plus, you really have to start thinking about how are you going to use your skills and knowledge, what you've acquired. What are you going to do? Yeah, and I don't think for older people, where they're more used to working in silos on their own, doing what they're doing, they need to think about coming together. Looking at what they can do. 100%. The way in which they're focusing on doing, they'll have to start thinking about working together. 100%. Because there can be more people over 50 than there are people
under 50. That's
over
right.
15.
That's right.
Yeah, 100%.
And actually, that's the place to be, isn't it? Creativity wise, if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's
And
going to be the
people
marketplace.
over 50 will have a lot more skills, knowledge, experience of the world and what's going on than the younger people. So they need to think about how they're going to reinvent themselves to become purposeful for the future. Yeah. So there we have it, guys. I mean, a lot to cover there, and it's been really interesting. And there's loads of things we didn't cover, but it's really a point now where people need to be thinking about the world of work. And if you're younger, even more so if you're younger, if you are 20, 25, whatever it is, think about what you're going to be doing. Don't pick up jobs that are going to be out of the door in the next 5-6 years. Think about what you need to be doing, where you need to be going, and how AI is going to affect your role or how it will help to enhance it. And remember, human expertise is something that's going to deteriorate. So therefore, if you can maintain a degree of expertise as well, that will be valuable for the future. That's going to be an asset. So think about that for the future. And on that note, we're going to disappear. But I hope you found it interesting as we did. And we will catch up with you soon. So you take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.